Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Super Savvy Business Word of the Week podcast. And today we have Kurt Johansen, who is one of Australia's email marketing geniuses. Now, Kurt's been in the marketing game for many, many years, and he's built his success not through luck, but through sheer hard work and discovery. You see, over the years, he's tried radio, newspaper, flyer drops, direct mail, telemarketing, but he could never isolate or determine if the return on the investment was worthwhile. And he also discovered that you need to continually market and invest, which is what most businesses can't afford to do. And Kurt found that this was really frustrating. He just didn't have a clue where to actually spend his marketing dollars and money in order to get a decent return. So he did what most marketers do and most small business owners do, and that is that he stopped marketing. I'm wondering how many of our listeners understand exactly where he was at that point. But what he did start to do at that point was to look at email marketing. And he knew it was a medium that could work, and he knew it pretty well. And see, I guess he was coming from the point of view that he knew everyone had an email address. So he immersed himself in the topic. He researched the world's best practices. He read every perceivable article that was written. He started to experiment, keep statistics, and he even tweaked things along the way in order to start getting better results. And what he found was that his results and successes climbed. He then started copywriting and he became a practitioner of emotional direct response advertising. And then he tested and tested and tested until he discovered what worked best. So today we have Kurt with us to discover what it is about email marketing that makes it so successful. But most importantly, this is the reason why I brought him on, is that as you all know, I'm a big, big believer in driving targeted leads to your website. The problem is, however, what do you do with those leads when they get to your website? Is everyone going to be in the part of the buying cycle where they're ready to get their credit cards out? Or are they in that investigative or informational part of the buying cycle? Or maybe they're just trying to make a decision. So, Kurt and I are going to discuss today what you can do to solve this problem. Rather than having a hole in your bucket where you're losing these valuable leads, there is a way you can get around it. So, first of all, let's welcome Kurt to our call.
Hello, Fiona, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Kurt. And like every time we've done a couple of podcast recordings together, and every time I introduce you, I get excited because I know how passionate you are about email marketing. And it's definitely one of those mediums that a lot of people use but don't really understand.
It is a medium that is used considerably by people because they do send out emails. And one thing for the listeners to take on board here is everybody's got an email address. And it's how to effectively stay in touch with those people, and particularly in that intro, and thank you, it was about when people hit the website, what do you do after that? And many people listening to this would understand that you try to give something away, but you can give something away and you've got their email address. I'm talking about, and what I've become skilled in, is how you keep people on your list for the next 6 months, the next 9 months, the next 12 months, the next 1 year, 2 year. As you said, is when they're in the buying cycle, or they could be in a different stage. When are they ready to buy? So what are you going to do over those years after the post years where they have signed up? And that's really what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, I mean, we will just backtrack just a tiny bit when we talk about having that lead magnet, which is, also important. I mean, that's in itself an area which we can have a whole discussion on, but I just want to touch on it lightly if that's okay, because, it's often people will have these sign up forms and it'll be quite weak in the offer. It'll be something like sign up to our newsletter. And that really just doesn't quite cut it, does it, these days? We need a lead magnet, which is going to be quite compelling, that is going to persuade people to hand over their personal details, such as a name and an email address.
Oh, I think that's very important, is that sign-up boxes on their own have a specific purpose, but people are only going to leave their name and their email address if you've got some valuable information that they're seeking. And it really is what that offer is at the start, is how email marketing really commences for any business owner, is that what are you willing to give away as in advice, information, help and guidance for any person who visits your site, for them to leave their name, their email address, and capture that information themselves or download it. Then you have them to email market or send pertinent messages and sales tips, etc., uh, after post that sign up.
Yeah, because it's, I guess what it is, and especially in the online space, Kurt, is it's all about developing that know, like, trust factor, isn't it? You know, because really, as an online business owner, we're quite anonymous. We don't, the person doesn't know us. They haven't, maybe most likely haven't met us. So how can we break through that barrier of developing that trust, where if someone feels that they know us well enough and trust us enough to actually want to do business with us?
It's interesting that you're using the word trust, Fiona, because I'm a big believer in this. The biggest downside or downfall of any small business or medium business is trust. Trust that they're going to leave their email address with you, and trust you're going to give them some information. So before you can gain a sale, except for those who are desperate and they urgently need something straight away, is that we have to overcome this fear of trust. The way that I look at it for email marketing is basically to get my clients to understand email marketing is about three main things. The first one is about the list, and that's what we're talking about here, where you can capture the names of what you mentioned, that they can come onto your site so we can capture the name. But that's just step one. Step two of email marketing, or helping overcome this trust, is form a relationship with that person, and we'll be discussing that a little bit more. And then the third one, then you've got a right to send them some sort of offer. So to me, it's all about one, the list; two, the relationship with your list; and three, the offer. And email marketing isn't about doing some fancy offer or discount, because that's number three. Email marketing to me is number two, where that list relationship building is so important.
Yeah, and it's amazed me actually over the years, Kurt, the amount of people who, they have quite a good offer on their website. There's been enough for me to give it a name and an email address, and you receive, one or two emails, but then it just goes dead after that. And it just seems such a waste when they've gone to all that effort to just get me to their website, and then they've gone to all that effort to come up with an offer that has enticed me enough to give me, their name and email, for me to give my name and email address. But then there's no sort of sequence, there's no follow up, there's no nurturing of a relationship after that.
Yeah, I used to say years ago, I've been a sales trainer for, geez, I've got to go 25, 30 years now, and I've been in business that long. One of the things I used to always teach people was everybody or anybody can sell something to somebody once. So there's no skill in that. So you can always sell something once for a person, but depending on the reason. The art of a real salesman is sell to the same person over and over and over again. And that's really what we're talking about with email marketing, having the opportunity to do that. Now, the people aren't going to buy immediately, but you need to be able to keep in contact with them so that they know that you've got another product or service, because once they've bought once, they've already overcome that fear of trust. So they already know who you are, and they're also a good base of a referral as well to build your client list. So I'm a massive believer is that you stay in contact with your customers.
Mm.
And what I found, and one of the reasons I've chosen email, is because we have it's just more affordable, and it's easier than sending out a letter or a flyer or a letterbox drop or radio. It's more affordable for the small to medium business owner to handle that constant contact with email.
Yeah, and there's quite a sales process to it, isn't there? There's lots of steps in that process that you go through when somebody actually opts in.
Oh, absolutely. There's a process of sending them targeted information on what they've actually downloaded or they've opted in for. That's one thing. But there's also, I've discovered that there are seven, what I call seven killer tips on how to write the email as well. So it's not only what you're going to write, which is a strategy, it's also how you particularly write each email, which is important. Now, this is something that I've really honed in over the last 5 years of being an email marketing person, is learning what works best and what doesn't work best. And more so to me, and I really like the idea where you said earlier about the sales cycle and where they are in that process. It's, to me, is to have them continually receive your emails without unsubscribing. And
Yeah,
I think that's important.
yeah.
That's really what you're trying to aim at.
And I know that you're quite big on emotional triggers as well. And you sort of have isolated a lot more emotional triggers than most people. Is that right?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Emotional triggers are one thing to get people triggered to buy. That's the easiest way to say. Snap something in their brain and says, "I really want to read this. I really